What's going on, guys? My name is Joe. This is the Duel Factory. This is now my fourth attempt to try to record this, even though I successfully did it the first time, but we're not going to get into that. But it's been a while since I've done a video for you guys, and admittedly, things in life just kind of got in the way. One, I've been working a lot, and I just haven't found the time to sit down and actually put profiles and stuff like that together. Two, a lot of the stuff in Yu-Gi-Oh! That I've been playing I don't feel like has been like super interesting. And it kind of like defeated the purpose of like profiling stuff, because I like doing that. I like showing you guys more interesting stuff, or like stuff I just play in general, especially when I play a lot, right? But that's fine. I have been recently playing a lot of new stuff, especially now that we have Blazing Dominion, which I'm waiting on those cards, so that should happen in a couple days. So I can do some Blazing Dominion profiles and whatnot. And one deck that I've always been fascinated with and actually really liked playing is the Regenesis deck, so I'm going to show that to you today. And it's going to be Regenesis Azamina. I've seen a lot of people play the deck with Kashtira. I've seen a lot of people play it with Dogmatica, which I might do a version of that deck because I love Nadir Servant as a card. And when this deck first came out, I always tried to find like an engine that's like more supplementary with it. For example, when the deck first came out, the Fiendsmith cards were really popular, and we still had Moon Maiden, whatever her name is. And I really liked that card. And I thought, surely this deck could play that engine as a way to search 2500, so that way you can facilitate your actual Regenesis cards. That being said, the best the board can do was like a Caesar Book of Moonline. Shout out to Lucas for that meme. But now that we have access to Dark Magician cards and stuff like that, I feel like the deck is in a better position than it has been. Arguably, I still don't think it's quite where it needs to be competitive. But that's okay, it doesn't necessarily need to be. But we'll go ahead and get to the profile, and I'll show you my take on it, my thoughts, and then please feel free to like, comment, subscribe in the bottom, and then you can I'm always open to feedback and stuff like that. So one thing I will note in this deck, a lot of the times the biggest problem is you need to be able to open Archfiend. So in this type of list, we maxed out the copy of Archfiend. So we're playing 3 copies of it. It's the only one that you summon by revealing one in hand. The rest of them you have to control one. But it adds from deck, or adds from the banishment pile. And then the Regenesis monsters all have the same effect, where if they're sent to the graveyard during your opponent's turn, during the end phase, they can add back. So that's a really cool interaction with it. Then we play 3 copies of Regenesis, which either adds or sends. It does have an adverse effect that if you control a Genesis monster, you can add 1 monster from your deck with 2500 attack and defense. That doesn't come up in this list, but if you're deck building a different version of it, that could come up, so keep that in mind. Banishment effect in the graveyard, super relevant for the crackback, follow-ups, whatever you want to call it. We play 3 copies of Regenesis Code. I would like to not have to play this card, especially in this version, because having access to your extra deck actually does come up. But what I will say is the only card in your deck that is a 1-card Regenesis starter. It doesn't require anything else to make it work. So you have to play 3 of it, plus banishing it to special summon 1 from your banish pile is actually a very big effect. And then for your dedicated normal summon, we play 3 copies of Doomdog Octoros. Now, originally, I was playing Royal Archfiend, which just searches an Archfiend monster, but it locks you out of your extra deck except for Archfiend monsters. This version, that does come up, so I opted for this one card instead, because it was played in the original builds of Regenesis Azamina. It's real simple. When it goes from field to graveyard, you add a level 8 not Archfiend, but a level 8 Fiend type monster from deck to hand. Now, arguably, this would be way better if it got it sent from field or hand. But this deck doesn't have a normal summon. It's just summoning 2500 bodies, so it works out. And then it also really works well with Black Witch. And it is essentially 12 copies of Regenesis Archfiend. And then for the actual Azamina cards themselves, you play 3 copies of Black Witch. I like this because it's a searchable and recurrable 2500 body that you could always have to reveal for Archfiend. Really cool. Plus, with the new Dark Magician stuff, it gives you an option for 2 Omni Negates, or Omni Negate with a follow-up Omni Negate, whatever, right? And I think it pairs really well with this deck, because it's one of those decks that you do access your extra deck, but you don't really care of everything that's in there, so you have the room to facilitate it, plus utility cards if you so choose, right? But it does everything you want the deck to be. If it was level 8, it'd be really cool. You could do some cool level 7 stuff if you want, but I don't have anything like that facilitating in it for the moment. And then just like the Regenesis deck where I think Archfiend's best card, but the other cards are really good, but I don't necessarily want to play watered down 2,500 bodies. I just want to play ways to get to those 2,500 bodies. So we play 3 copies of Wanted. You could draw it. It's searchable off Rushialago if you open Deception, so on and so forth. But that is 6 searchable copies of a 2,500 body that can facilitate your Regenesis Archfiend, right? Then with every engine, you always have to play engine requirements. So for the Azamina stuff, for engine requirements, you have to play at least 1 copy of Hallowed Azamina, you have to play 1 copy of Deception. And if you're playing the Dark Magician stuff, you at least have to play 1 copy of Gaze of Timaeus. Now, arguably, you could play another copy of Gaze of Timaeus for follow-up and whatnot, but I feel like 1 is just fine. And sometimes, I'll be honest with you, depending on how your hand's up, there's a lot of times you'll discard it off of Radiant Typhoon Vision just so you can see more cards. This card's really good. You could arguably play more copies, but in a format where Radiant Typhoon had been running rampant, the engine itself has been running rampant, I didn't want to put myself in a position where it's my only starter but gets stopped like that going second. So we only play 1, but you can always change that number. And then Hallowed Azamina, I wouldn't play more than 1 even if we had a more dedicated version of the deck. But that is the engine requirements for the Azamina stuff. And then for the Regenesis, I see a lot of people like kind of max out on those cards, but I don't feel like that's necessary. You just want them for the utility. So we only play 3 in the main deck. We play 1 Warrior, 1 Sage, and 1 Lord. Arguably, I've thought about cutting this card and just making it a 40 card deck flat, because right now it's at 41. But what you will find in a deck like this, even though like everything in your hand's big, you actually do have a hard time getting over anything that's 2,500. And this becoming a 5,000 attack point monster in the battle phase is actually like really, really important. Plus, it gives you more options under like Droll and Lockbird per se. Especially like if you get drolled, you can, or if you think you're going to get drolled, to start, you can add Regenesis Lord off of Archfiend if you start Archfiend. And then you can special it by banishing and then setting the trap card if you wanted to. Which we do play 1 copy of Regenesis Birth. That being said, you could play more copies of that card too, but I don't feel like it's necessary to only play 1. Book and Moon effect's really powerful, Soul Charge effect's really powerful, so on and so forth. Now that is it for the actual Regenesis cards themselves. And then we play non-engine. So one thing I will say is I don't think the Regenesis engine itself is strong enough to go card for card with other decks. And that's where I feel like hand traps actually thrive when you play them in bunches. I don't think that deck has this luxury, so I think this particular strategy has to go with a board breaker-esque type approach. So you'll notice I only play 1 hand trap in the main. I play 3 copies of Wallace. The idea is you're not going to stop your opponent, but you want to make it as uncomfortable for them to play the game as possible. Wallace does that perfectly, because they could play and give you cards, or they have to make a half board, whether you don't really expect to draw off this. You're just trying to make either your opponent concede to a half board or make it awkward for them to play. Now, like I said, we go for a board breaker-esque approach. So to do that, we play what I think is the most versatile card in the game, is 3 copies of Fallen the Virtuous. You can't play 3, but you really want to see this card because it's really good going second. And it's really good when you combo applying pressure to your opponent's board, right? Because if you resolve 1, it sends Albion, so that's the second one. The second one sends Ecclesia, pops another card, so that's 2 cards. Then you can shuffle back the Albion and the Ecclesia, removing 3 total cards. That is insane for something like this. Also, there are times where you will have an Ecclesia in graveyard, and you can activate this as a Reborn as an interruption. That effect actually becomes important a lot in the grind matches, because a Reborn effect can bring back an Archfiend, can bring back anything, right? So this card has a lot of versatility in your deck, so just keep that in mind. And then I'm a firm believer of decks in the format are 2 types of decks. They're either a Droplet deck or a Forbidden Crown deck. And at first, I thought this was a Droplet deck to get the bonus effects off the Regenesis monsters themselves. But what I found is instead of recurring during the end phase, you kind of really want the 2,500 body to stick. That way you can summon your monsters out of your hand. And this is where Forbidden Crown comes into that. Plus, it does a really good job of keeping you alive, which in this deck, you'll either go for a game push and find that doesn't work, and you need to be able to survive so you can try again. And that card fits this perfectly to the T. And then the best board breaker, I think, in the game is Super Polymerization. Now, Blazing Dominion did introduce a card called Fata Dragna, which is phenomenal for this deck. But at the time of recording this, my stuff hasn't come in from Blazing Dominion. But I would make changes to the extra deck so that way you could play that card. But yeah, this being able to take your opponent's monsters, fuse them into a body, and then you just being able to push is actually just insane. So that's an approach I decided to take with this deck. And then we play 3 copies of Radiant Typhoon Vision. Between those 9 cards and the 6 other quick plays you play, yes, 6, you have 15 quick play spell cards that you can discard with Radiant Typhoon Vision to see more cards that add to consistency of your deck. That's pretty good odds that you'll see Radiant Typhoon Vision plus quick play. That's really cool. And then I do play the 1 copy of MST to go with the Radiant Typhoon Vision. Arguably, you don't have to play this card. It's actually the 41st card in my deck. But being able to clear threats so that way you can stick your monster on board is actually really good. It's also really good against floodgates and stuff like that too if your opponent has them. So there's that. Now, it's a 41 card list. Take of it what you will. I wouldn't change the main deck at this time, but we have a whole new format coming up. So that less to be desired. Now we'll go on to the extra deck, which this is the Azamina build. So you play 1 copy of Rusialago. That is your Omni Negates. You play 1 copy of, well, that's Sylvia, sorry. And then Mu Rusialago. Also, this one's in Blaze. I don't know if you guys can see it, but this, being able to make this and search like your wanteds and stuff like that's really big. And then for Super Poly right now, we're playing 1 copy of Saint Azamina, 1 copy of Azamina. If you can resolve it, you can push lethal very easy with these cards. And I think it's really good against like your Dracotel deck, which is probably your hardest matchup as of right now. I haven't played against Goldtoon yet, so I couldn't tell you. But since we have the new Fata Dragna, you could probably cut these cards and play the Fata Dragna and something else in your extra deck. But this is what I was playing at the time. This is actually really good. I've done it a couple times actually too, so maybe you don't cut these, maybe cut something else, but I don't know. Then for the Dark Magician stuff, you play 1 Dark Magician of Destruction, and then 1 Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. This card opened a lot of avenues for this particular deck, and it also opened a lot of avenues for other decks as well. Now, something you can also consider, you could play cards like Master of Chaos, or another suggestion that was brought up to me from Lucas again, was the Dark Magicians, because you can make it in an attempt to dig through your deck to see more cards, which I think is very, very relevant in this deck. So maybe we cut something else to make room for that. We'll figure that part out later. But yeah, these 2 cards, like I said, it opened a lot of avenues for a lot of decks, and I think it opened a lot of avenues for this one as well. And then for generic Super Poly targets, 1 Garura and 1 Muddragon. Not much to say, they're just really good with Super Poly. This helps you push for games sometimes because it does double damage. Fata Dragna, whenever it comes in, you make room for that card in this extra deck 100% because the 2500 stat line on the defense is really, really big. And then since we're playing the 3 Fallen and the Virtuous, we play the 1 Albion and the 1 Ecclesia. You never summon this. And obviously you never summon this one. But you can actually, going forward, since we play Fata Dragna, that can summon this card, which gives you access. So maybe there's an argument to play 2 in the future, and I think I might. But for now, this works out perfectly. There is a branded version of this deck that actually makes use of this card to summon it and stuff like that. And then being 25-25 is huge. So is Albion too, so keep that in mind. And then the rest are links. We play 5 utility links. So we play 1 Salamangreat Almirage. This is just for Doomdog Octoros. Because there are times that you will open like a 2500 body and the Doomdog, but no Black Witch. But you can normal the Doomdog, link it into this, and then get your Regenesis Archfiend to play that way. IP Masquerena and SP Masquerena, you make this on a lot of your end boards. So, and then SP Little Knight's SP Little Knight. And then we play 2 Link 3s. We play Gorgon, which is a really good Liger Dancer out. And then you have space for 1 utility card. I play Blackluster, Soldier of Chaos. I like this card because it can get the bonus effect of being untargetable, and it can randomly just push for game. Arguably, this card is also cuttable, but we can figure that out later. But that was my Regenesis Azamina deck profile. Tell me guys what you think in the comments down below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.